All right. Well, speaking of super passions, here is a really super passionate guy. This is Her Vang. I mean, I just can't. I don't even know where to begin to start. I mean, Her is just such an incredible person. If you haven't seen his TED Talk, just type in Her Vang TED Talk on YouTube. You will not miss it. You've got to watch it. Watch it during lunch or something like that, or later. But I just want to tell a little story about how I met Her. Sorry, how's that? Her. If you watch the TED Talk, he really makes some good jokes about that. And so
Get that a lot.
Talk about her, but it's a him, right? So I saw Her Vang's TED Talk on Facebook. I think maybe it was like 6 months ago, early in the year, something like that. I really don't know how I saw it. I was just kind of doing the zombie scroll in my Facebook feed, and then I saw Vang and TED Talk. I'm like, okay, that clearly is a Hmong last name, and TED Talk. I don't see too many Hmong people giving TED Talks, and so I watched it, but I was so confused because it was TED Youth in the Netherlands, but this is Her Vang. And I'm like, and if you watch the quality, it's kind of zoomed out a little bit, so it's not really zoomed into his face, so you can't really tell what he looks like, right? And so I'm just so confused because I'm like, okay, is he Hmong or not, right? And I'm like hoping he please be Hmong because I want him to be Hmong because this is so awesome, right? And so then I watch it and he talks about Laos. I'm like, okay, good, check one for Hmong, right? That's pretty close. He's probably Hmong. And then he talks about, being Hmong. I'm like, okay, great, he's Hmong. So, but I watched that. It's like 10, 15 minutes, and I was just blown away. We're gonna talk about his story, and he was born in Laos. He's an international student, right? He's not like all of us who were born here, who goes to college because we could go to college. He's an international student from Laos to come to the United States here as a college student. That's a big deal. And so, go ahead and give that a round of applause.
Thank you.
Not only that, but he's got full ride scholarship to Bates, so they covered his expenses. So, but we'll talk about his story. I saw the story, and I was so impressed by Her's ability to speak about what he was doing, about his story. And I told my wife that when I was watching it, I said to my wife, I said, "This kid is awesome. I need to meet him one day. I need to shake his hand, and I need to bring him to HCON." Right, and I'm so glad that we met for the first time last week in Sacramento, and then I shook his hand and I said thank you, right, and I made that a reality. Her is just an amazing guy, and I just cannot wait to share with you his story. And so let's jump right in here. So Her, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
But before I go into my story, I would like to share something with everyone. So let me share a little story that happened to me while I was in New York. So basically, I was in a bookstore, right? I love buying books. But obviously, I'm from Laos, so I'm kind of poor too. So I was in the store, and I went to this self-help section. I saw all these amazing books, and I picked up like 5 books, and I'm like, God, these are like super expensive. And I'm like, they're like 150 something for all these books. And I'm like, I could do so much with this money back in Laos. And then I was like, actually, so I was thinking that I can't afford it, right? And I was like, actually, I can't afford not to buy the books. Because these books are more valuable than the money. Like, you can take my money away if I have all these books. I can totally come back with the knowledge. I can make the money again. But if you take the books away or take my knowledge away, I'll be like after you, So for HCON, I feel like it's more than like for the Hmong community here, more than anything, we need HCON. Like, we need something that we actually share our ideas. Like me, I personally go on YouTube and listen to like all these amazing speakers. They talk about their path or like what their ideas of success is, and all that. And I haven't like seen any Hmong person or any Hmong conference that does that. So I feel like more than anything we need HCON, and like thank you to Jonathan for bringing it up. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I didn't pay him to say that. So Well, thank you for those really generous words, Her, and let's get to the real awesomeness here, which is your story, and let's start at the very beginning. So tell us where you were born, your family, just kind of first few years of your life.
So I was born in the countryside of Luang Prabang. I don't know if you guys know it. In the 1990s, so opium was forbidden in Laos, right? But my dad was addicted, so he wouldn't be able to get drugs. So when he doesn't get access to drug, he would hit my mom. And I was a kid. I was like 2, 3, and I witnessed all this thing that he like did to my mom, my siblings. So I was scared of him as well. You know, like there's a lot of times when my mom trying to look for help in the village, but like anyone who tried to help my mom, my dad would hit them too. So eventually they stopped helping because they didn't want that trouble. So they left my mom being abused by my dad. At the age of 4, my parents got divorced. So obviously I was, after like everything that I've seen of him, I was scared to live with him, and I was a kid, so I was super attached to my mom. So I went with her, and we moved to another countryside. So after that, my dad wasn't happy that I wasn't living with him, because obviously for the Hmong culture, the youngest son is supposed to be the one who takes care of the parents.
And how many siblings do you have?
I've got 6 siblings, 3 older brothers and 3 older sisters. Yeah. So he wasn't happy that I wasn't living with him. So he kept coming to ask me to go back with him. But because I was scared of him, I didn't want to go with him. But he kept coming, and then eventually he got really angry, and he said, "I'm your dad, right? But if you don't want to see me, like, I'll grant that to you, but I'm gonna sell you to China so that you wouldn't be able to see me, or you would never have to see me again." And that freaked me out. So, yeah, well, sometimes he kind of said that it was a joke, but obviously my mom was super scared. And back then, a lot of children were actually sold to China. So I would walk around the village, and when I saw a shirt that looks like his hanging outside somebody's house, I would think it was his. I would think he was there. And I would run into my uncle's bathroom. I would hide there for like hours, and they didn't have a bathroom to go into. Eventually, he got married, and he moved and lived with his wife. And at the age of 9, I was, before that, when he got married, my mom and I were living in a little house, and basically she was illiterate, so she didn't have a job. So we grew corn, and we boiled them, and then we would like carry them from door to door to sell them, so that I could go to school, and so that she could use the money to build a little hut for us to live. Because of that, right? I felt like, although I didn't have my dad, I felt like my mom was being both a dad and a mom to me. So I felt that I didn't really need my dad. But when I was 9, I went to school that day. It was like any other day. I went to school, and then I got out of school. And there was a bus stopping right in front of my school. And on the bus, my mom was on there. And she said, so she told me that she was going to Vientiane, which is the capital of Laos, and she was getting her visa to the US. I didn't know what the US was. So I thought, because my mom and I usually just went visit my auntie in the countryside. So I was like, yeah, maybe my mom was just visiting my auntie or some relative somewhere, and she didn't take me because I had school. So I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, sure. I didn't know what a visa was. I didn't know what the U.S. was. After she had left and she got the visa to come to the U.S., I don't remember exactly how long before I realized. I think it was like between 2 weeks to like a month and a half before I actually realized that she was somewhere else far and that she wasn't coming back. Though she did promise me that she would come back. So after she left and after like my siblings explaining what the US meant and all that, I cry a lot. As a little kid and also living in Laos, you hear these stories about Da all the time, about like spirits, ghosts. And like for me, I was super attached to my mom, and every night I would like, before I, like, cause when you're kids, you have to pee like during the night, and yeah, so I was, but like when my mom was there, every time I had to pee, I just asked her if she would go with me, like she would go with me so that I wouldn't be scared. But then when she wasn't there, I would just like there was no one that I could ask to go with me. Like the house just seemed like it seemed so empty. I had no one I could like actually go and talk to. So I just covered myself in my blanket and cry. And so after that, when she left, I was in school with a lot of other people, and so the kids there would bully me, right? Cause I think you guys know how much a father figure means in a family. And for me, I didn't have one. Well, I did have one, but he wasn't there for me, and my mom wasn't there for me. So all the rich Lao kid, they thought, oh, we could totally bully this guy. We can totally like bully him, and there would be no one to help him. So they bully me. They would come in with dead snails, dead caterpillars, and they would throw it on me. They would kick me if they wanted to. So I was angry. So I blamed it on my dad. I was like, it's all because of my dad that my mom left. It's because my mom didn't feel safe being in Laos. That's why she left, because of my dad. It's because of my dad that my family is all broken. So I blamed it on him, and for many years I had that in me. And when people were trying to talk to me about my life, I would joke my way out of it. Because it was so intense that I didn't want to talk about it, But then, because I was super attached to my mom, I told myself that when I grew up, I would be a good dad, and I would study hard so I can go and see my mom in the U.S. And also when I started, when I was 15, I started dating, and all these people would be like, oh, we don't want our daughter to be with you because of your dad history, and he would you would grow up and be like him, and our daughter will suffer, so we don't want you to hang around with our daughters. And that really motivated me too. I know a lot of people that if they get those kind of things said to them, they would give up and all that stuff. But for me, it was different. So I saw it as a motivation, right? I saw it as a reason that I have to change my family's story. I have to show other people that we are more than that. That I'm not just, like, my dad doesn't define who I am. So I came up with a dream. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna go to America, I'm gonna study hard, and I'm gonna meet my mom and go to America and show all these people that I'm not like my dad, or that there's more to me than just my dad's story. So at 15, because I had that dream, I was super excited about it, and so I moved from the countryside to Luang Prabang. So I wanted to study English, right? So I moved there, and that was the only place I could actually study English. There were lots of foreigners there and lots of English centers. So I was like, I'm gonna go to Luang Prabang, get into an English center, and then study hard, and then go to America. So when I got to Luang Prabang, I realized that the English center cost about $100 for a term, which is like 4 months. And I was like, holy shit, like $100. I've never seen a $20 bill. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot. Because I really, really wanted to come to the States and meet my mom and changed my family's story. So I was like, okay, I don't have the money to go into all these English centers, but I do have the streets, and there's lots of foreigners here. So, and I had a bicycle. So I was like, okay, I had a bicycle, I can like totally just travel to downtown every day where I can like talk to foreigners. So I just like went into, well, I was also going to school. So I would go to school from 8 until from 8 a.m. until like 4 p.m. and we had like 2 hours lunch. Because I didn't have money, I was also living with my brother. He lived in the city, so I was living with him. But he has his own family, so he couldn't really like help me in major ways. So I would pack my own rice, and sometimes I would have like 2,000 kip, which is so $1 is like 8,000 kip. So I would have like 2,000 kip for the day, and I would take that money. So I had lunch at school, so I used that money to buy lunch, and then after lunch I would not eat until 11 p.m. So I go to school until 4 p.m. and then after school I would go to I would like bike on the street and look at like foreigners who just like stand there like they have nothing to do, or sometimes I just like, screw it, I'm just gonna ask them. So I just go and ask foreigners and teach me English. I knew very little. I knew stuff like, hello, how are you? I'm good, thank you, and you? Like, that's all I knew. There was one time my cousin went up to a foreigner and he said, hello, how are you? I'm good, thank you, and you? Like, he said all those things, and the foreigner was just like, okay. Yeah, so, but then I did that for like 3 to 4 months, and I had like basic English. And then I bumped into this guy. He was walking in the street, and I went up to him, and I was talking to him, and he was like, oh yeah, actually, I teach a free English class here, and you can totally come to my class. So I was like, whoa, that's great. So I went to his class, and he's actually from San Francisco. He teaches English for free in Laos. He has a non-profit organization called the Smile Project. So I went with him, and that's when like my life really changed. I went to his class till like 9 p.m. and then my friends and I would go to the night market, and we would talk to like foreigners until like 11 p.m. and then we would go home, which is like, it's pretty late. So it wasn't safe for us to do that. So he eventually decided that he would rent a room next to his for like my friends and I to stay with him, so we could practice English with him every day, get to eat with him, learn about American culture too. Yeah, so he rented a room for us, and it started with like 5 of us, and then now we have like 12 to 15 guys living there. They're all Hmong. I told him that I had a dream. I told him that I wanted to go to America, and he was like, "Yeah, like I believe in you," because he was super supportive as well, and because I had the dream, so I worked really hard. I became his top student, and that's why he had a lot of faith in me. And like a few years ago, he was like, I totally see you studying abroad, so I'm gonna take you to Vietnam, just so you get to experience being abroad and like know what it's like in other countries instead of just seeing Laos. So he took me abroad, and after that, there was also a library in town that I. Do you want to ask any questions, or should I?
I feel like I should just get off the stage, and I just want to sit on the chairs down here and let you take it over. I mean, I'm just in awe. I mean, I don't even want to interrupt you. I'm like, so, well, let's. You guys see why Her is so awesome. I mean, his story is just so phenomenal. And can you guys, let me just say this, all right? Maybe you guys are feeling this. I'll say it out loud. I mean, when I hear your story, Her, I mean, this guy's speaking very articulate English, right? And he comes from no English background. And your story, I just feel like, woe is me. Like, I just need to, I feel so challenged by your story, you know, that I've taken a lot for granted, and there's a lot more I should be doing with what I've been given, and you're just so amazing. Let me just, let's kind of recap some things here, because we haven't even got to some of the best parts yet. All right, I kind of know a little bit about his story, so I can predict. So. All right, so let's just kind of recap for our audience here. So you're born in Laos, and born in Laos, 6 older siblings.
Yep.
Okay, mom and dad essentially were not in your life after the age of 9.
Yep.
Pretty much, right?
Yep.
And then at the age of 9, you went to live with your brother in what city?
Luang Prabang for like a year.
For about a year.
Yeah.
Okay, 9 years old. Anybody here 9 year old? 9 years old? Anyone? 9 years old. I don't even know. Okay, 9 years. What grade is that? Help me out. Teach. 3rd grade? 3rd grade. 3rd grade. What was I doing? I think I was playing Pokemon cards. I mean, 3rd grade. Just imagine 3rd grade self. No mom, no dad, in the streets of Luang Prabang with, I mean, essentially, I don't know, a bike. Well, did you have a bike at 9?
Yeah.
A bike?
A bicycle.
Bicycle.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even begin to fathom that. I mean, that's just unreal for me. 9 years old, okay, your mom left, your dad's in the countryside.
Yep.
Right? You're living with your brother. Now, I want to ask a little, I want to kind of just zoom in a little bit on that moment where you realized that you wanted to go to America, right? That you realized that, you know what, I'm going to go to America one day, and I'm going to meet my mom. Spoiler alert, he met his mom for the first time.
Yeah, in July 28th.
And it was 10 years, right?
Yeah, 10 years.
10 years
apart. Yeah.
apart, and then he met his mom. So that it ends on a good note. Okay, so we can
He met my
spoil
mom
that.
too. So.
Yeah, I did. So she didn't. I was
it
trying
wasn't
to.
his dream though. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I was part of his dream. But okay, so all right, so that give you some context. Okay, he actually meets his mom. 10 years, 9 years old.
Yeah.
Tell us when you realized that you wanted to go to America. Like, when did that become the vision of your life?
Like I said earlier, it was when I was getting bullied in school.
Yeah.
And because my dad wasn't there for me, so like that was for me. I feel like my everything that I do, or everything, like all the motivations or the dreams that I have, wasn't started with one little incident. It's more of many of them coming together to form one thing. Because I feel like one event would not be able to keep me going when life gets really hard. You know, I feel like there's more to it that I feel like, oh, I need to do it because of all these reasons. If it was just one reason, I would probably be like, yeah, it's just like one aspect of my life, you know? So like the first time that I felt like I really need to reunite with my mom was when I was getting bullied and my dad wasn't there for me, so I really missed my mom. And then the second part was when I was older and all these other people would be like, they don't want me to hang around with their daughters. And I'm like, I'm not that ugly, you know? So, I mean, if I was ugly, then I probably like, yeah, it's fine, you know, but, you know, yeah. So, yeah, because I feel like in a sense, because it's not just me that experienced it, my brother also had experienced the same thing. And I feel like we are human too.
Yeah.
And why would you define me by my dad's actions?
Yeah.
You know, also like in a lot of Hmong cultures, they even sometimes my family does that too. There would be like, oh, you know, like this family, they're all like this. So if you like marry to one of their cousins, you know, you're probably gonna be like them.
Right.
And I also want to challenge that. I'm like, obviously, it's not true, and I want to challenge that it's not, like we can't define a person with their past. Even like the person, even if he did something bad yesterday, it doesn't mean that he's the same person today. So like I want to challenge that too. So by challenge that, like for me, coming to America or being super successful, like the best revenge is massive success, right? So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that, yeah. So.
Did you guys catch that? I love that. He said the best revenge is massive success.
Yeah, I didn't come up with that. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So okay, let me just highlight something that Her is touching on. It's such an important point here. I mean, Her is clearly embodying and making this very clear point, you know, about oneself being more than your circumstances, right? You know, clearly Her is more than just his dad's actions. Her is more than just his mom's actions. Her is more than just the country he was born. Her is more than just his language limitations, obviously, right? And I think that's just an amazing thing. And I want all of you to take that point away. If you're jotting down notes, jot that down, that, you know, you're more than just your circumstances. Her is clearly more than that, right? And you're not defined by where you grew up, where you were born, where you went to school, what titles you have, what degrees you have, what language you speak. It doesn't matter, you know, where you're born. Literally, I mean, like, this is the perfect example of just proving anybody who thinks that is right, that it's wrong, right? And Her is clearly more than just, you know, his circumstances. And so I hope all of you can take that away. I mean, that's something that I clearly am taking away. You know, that when I make excuses about myself, I can't do it because whatever, you know. I mean, I think about Her story, and it's clearly not the case that, you know, I'm determined by my circumstances. So, oh man, okay, we can go on forever. But 9 years old, you know, you were motivated by, by bullying and your mom leaving and all that stuff. Now, tell us a little bit about how much did you want to come to America? Like, how badly did you want? Was it just kind of something like, it's kind of a nice thing I want to do? Or how badly did you want to come to America?
Oh, really badly. Okay, so when I had the dream, right, I talked to a few people about it, and they would be like, "Come on, man! Like from Laos to America, like with my friends and I, many of my friends actually had the same dream, but many of them gave up because we, as a group, we didn't know anyone personally, or like we had never heard of anyone who had the same background or similar background from Laos and came all the way to America to a 4-year college. And we were like, because like when you've never heard of someone who's done that, it felt like you're working toward this thing that you don't even know if it was possible. So like there's a lot of hard times that, sometimes like just going on the street and getting super hungry and still like trying to talk to foreigners and they ignore you. Sometimes you just feel like, come on, like, like I'm hungry, I'm trying to talk to you, like I'm actually like making a lot of effort here. And sometimes that hardship kind of discourage you from keep going. But then as I ride my bike back home, right? Because like obviously I also had a really strong reason for me to come to America, and also every night when I rode my bicycle back home, I would imagine myself sitting on a campus talking to all this like white people, and like just walking around campus, sitting on like the grass part of the campus and be like going to classes. I imagine myself like going, like having achieved my goal already. I imagine myself like taking classes already, and like that's when like I go home. I would like do that on my way home, and when I get home, I eat, I go to sleep, and I would dream about it too. Like it was like I want it super bad. That like dream's not something that you can like force to do, right? So I would dream about it, and I wake up and I'll be like, oh, that was just a dream, and I would try to go back to sleep, but most of the time I can't go back to the same dream. Yeah, so that was how much I wanted it.
That's really awesome. How many of you want something that badly? I don't know how badly you guys want something. I don't know how badly you want whatever it is you came here thinking about. I don't know how badly you want your super passion. We talked about this at great length before this, and as he shared this part, it resonated so deeply with me because I don't know how many of you know how badly I wanted this to happen, right? How badly I wanted HCON to happen. How badly I wanted young people to come here. How badly I wanted to meet her, right? Really badly I wanted, and I met him. I scoured Facebook to find him. I didn't know how to find you, and I found him eventually. And I like her, resonates so deeply with knowing every detail, every nook and cranny of what I wanted very badly. And how badly do you guys want your super passion? How badly do you guys want your goal in your life, right? Is it just, whatever, right? Or you guys really want it badly, right? How badly do you want it? And so go ahead.
So recently I've learned about I learned that it had a name to it. It's called the power of visualization, which I didn't know back then. I was just doing it because I wanted it so badly. So I was just doing it. But I realized that there is actually a name to it, and like all these successful people, they all do it. They all visualize it and all that. So when I was in the Netherlands, I came.
Well, how did you get to the Netherlands? Let's talk about that.
Oh, okay.
That is an interesting story of itself.
Yeah. So basically, because I wanted to go to America, and there was a library in town, run by an American, and it was open to everyone. So I would go there all the time to like to learn about computer or trying to read books. I wasn't reading a lot of books back then, but so I went there all the time, and the owner knew me really well. So when there was the scholarship came in, she immediately had me in mind, and she was like, oh yeah, I have these two people and I want them to apply. I was 18 back then, and the scholarship was a 2 years program in the Netherlands.
And what is the program in the Netherlands? What exactly is it?
It's called United World College. So basically, it's a two-year high school program, and it has 17 campuses globally. There's one in the U.S., there's one in the Netherlands, and Germany, China, Japan, Thailand. So when she told me about it, I was really excited, right? Because I loved talking to people. I love learning about different cultures, and the school was an international school. We had about 130 nationalities in my school alone. I was super excited, and I wanted to go to that school. And when I heard about it, I knew exactly that I wanted that school. But then the national committee said, oh, actually you can't apply because you are just slightly older than the age that we want. So I was pretty sad, but like she had two of us in mind, and both of us couldn't apply. But then a month later, they called and they were like, "Oh, actually, we got people who are older and they applied. So like, you know, you just kind of like send in your application. We might take a look, we might not, but like it doesn't hurt just to send in." So we sent in, and we were the only two from Luang Prabang who got in. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you're 18, right? And you go to the
Yeah.
Netherlands.
Yeah.
You go to the Netherlands. It's a 2-year
Yep.
kind of high school-ish program, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I was in the Netherlands, I had this dream, right? I was like, well, by then I started like listening to all this amazing speaker on YouTube, and I was like, I want to speak one day, you know, like because I was watching tons of TED Talks. I was like, I want to like give a TED Talk, and then I came up with this goal. Like I actually like print out pictures. I print out pictures of like goal, and then I put like TED Talk, Martin Luther King, his picture on there. I'll be like, I'm gonna be like as a good speaker as him, and I put TED Talk on there. And then a year later, I was speaking at TED Talk. I was like, whoa, like that kind of like making your dream a visual. I've learned that helps so much. Like you wake up, like I literally put it on like just above the sink where I go brush my teeth every day. I put it like right in my door, and because like you know when I wake up in the morning, I open my door, I see it right there. It's the first thing that I see. So I feel like that really helped me to like to just that energy attracts the goal to me, you know? Like you don't, I mean, you obviously you have to work for it too, but like that mental visualization that helps so much. Yeah. So that's why I wanna share a bit. Yeah.
So that's and as I said, he eventually gave the TED Talk, and you can watch it. If you haven't watched it, you gotta watch it. It's awesome. And he gave the TED Talk. It was a TED Youth, like for young people, right?
Yep.
For young people, are giving the talks in the Netherlands, right? So that's how we got to the Netherlands. And I would assume at that time you maybe the only Hmong guy in the Netherlands at that school at the very least, probably.
Yeah.
That's super awesome. I mean, it's just a crazy thought. Can you just really let that soak in? Her Vang, Netherlands, TED Talk. That's just really awesome, right?
Yeah.
So now in the Netherlands, you started something awesome.
Yeah. So because I grew up in a poor family, and 3 of my siblings didn't get to go to school, and you know, like every day I see my sister with 4 kids that she has to take care of, and she doesn't have a job, and she struggles so much, and I feel like I felt like I had to do something about it, right? And I feel like I didn't want to see like all my little cousins growing up and having the same future as my sister. So I wanted to provide an opportunity to the Hmong children or at least I wanted to give them the opportunity to get an education. And also, like, for me, coming from like such a limited background where everyone didn't believe that I could make it this far, I also want to share this with a lot of the poor, the underprivileged Hmong children back home, and I want to tell them that you can be like me, and like, it doesn't matter what other people say, as long as like you, if you believe in it, you can be like me. And like, I want to be there to, I mean, obviously for me, I had my teacher who believed in me, so I was better off. But a lot of the Hmong people didn't have anyone to believe in them. So I want to be the person who believes in all these kids. So I started a project called Dreams Givers. When I had that project in mind, I was like, this is kind of crazy. Like, how am I gonna do this? And it took me 2 weeks to actually like, okay, like, I need to do this. So I was coming up with a bucket list, and I start a project that send children in Laos to school, and that took me 2 weeks before I actually like started doing it. And
that's better than most people. Most people don't even start.
Yeah, when I started it, it was just like that. So I went to Berlin because I have a list, right? I said I wanted to wear a night costume and walk in town. So I had that on my list. And I was in Berlin. I was talking to this friend, and I was like, yeah, I have this whole list, and I want to do all this stuff. And I said I wanted to wear a night costume and just like walk in town. Like, I just want to like do that. And she's like
knight in armor, like this whole armor thing.
Yeah, and she's like, no way. I have like a whole studio of like night costumes. You can like come check it out. And I was like, what? So I went and I did that. And like after that, I was like, whoa, like this is, like I just wrote that on my list, and like I just checked that off. Like that was like that. And I was like, okay, now I'm gonna like look at all the things that I wanted to do. So I look at started a project for children in Laos. So I came back to school. I opened my laptop. I just started. I didn't know what I was doing. So I just started like typing like my story into it. And I was like, this is all I want to do, and this is my plan. And then within 8 days, I got like 1,000 euro donated. And I was like, whoa, like that's it. Like the project's live. Like here we go. So we were able to send like 24 children to school within the 2 years. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, you know, I loved what you said about this. I can't say it, but this, you know, this.
I don't
have
a word for that either.
I mean, this aha moment, this epiphany, this moment where it clicks, right? Where you wrote this down, you had just expressed it. Someone had the means to fulfill that, and you did it, right?
Yep.
And then you pushed the boundaries and you said, what else could I do, right? And that I think that is just so amazing, right? And you know, my hope for all of us is that we can get this. We can get these clicks, these aha moments where you realize that, wow, I could do that. Well, what else could I do? What else could I do, right? Yep. And he's clearly here, right? He clearly did a lot of awesome stuff, right? And I'm so excited because I want to know what else he can do. What else can Her do, right? And that's why I'm here. That's why he's here. And I'm just so excited that you could share this with us. And so I could devote like a whole conference to your story. Well, that's a good segue into our audience question and answer time, where I want to give you a chance to ask Her any questions about his story. I mean, there's so much more we could go into, but I want to give you all a chance. Maybe you had some questions, maybe you have some clarifications, maybe you have something. Again, I was asking you before to kind of find points of connection between your life and these speakers' stories' life. Maybe there was a point of connection that you said, man, that really resonates with me. Like I felt that's so real for me. Maybe there's something you want to ask him about, how he did something, how how we thought about something that maybe is resonating with you or sticking with you. So I want to give you that opportunity. Before we do that, so get your questions ready, and we'll have you raise your hands and ask. But I forgot to ask you earlier. So what exactly is your super passion, Her?
Would anyone like to guess? No?
He said just tell him.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. Boom. Well, yeah. Also, like, for me, I feel like in the Hmong community, I feel like a huge problem is that we don't have the right mindset. Like we too smart. We think too much about it. Like, so for me, I feel like, cause obviously I had many friends who grew up in very similar background, and they see a totally different future for them than I do. Like they think that, oh, because their family is like this, there's no way they can achieve something big. But for me, I feel like no, because of this, I have to achieve something big. You know, like my parents, for example. Like I'm super grateful for my dad for being exactly the way he is, and for my mom for like leaving Laos to America, because of that I'm super motivated, that I wanted to come over here. Like I'm here today because of that exact thing that my parents did. And I was like, I can't imagine me being here without my parents being the way they were. If my parents were like a normal Hmong family and they loved us, I feel like I'd probably be married by now. I probably have like kids by now. Like you wouldn't see me here today. Yeah, so I feel like we need to see things differently. Like for me, my passion is all about showing that to the little kids that are growing up today, and that they have the same background as me, and I want to show them that you can see it differently. There's other perspectives to your life than just what you've been told. Yeah, so.
Awesome. All right, questions? Yes, let's start here. What's your name again? I can't see your name. Chong. Juby. Yeah. All right.
How did you meet your mom? Like, what caused you to find her? Like, did you know where she was?
Yeah, I've always known where she is. She lives with my uncle. 1 or 2 years before I went to the Netherlands, I actually started talking to her on the phone. Like I call her like every day, and I was telling her, I was like, Mom, one day I'm gonna come see you. And she was like, no, like she was like, come on, how are you gonna come over here? She's like, it's a lot of money to come over here, and you're young, like because young people in Laos, it's hard for them to come over here. So my mom wasn't really 100% believing that I could do it. And I was like, I'm gonna come over there. I didn't know how. I was just, yeah, but I was like, I'm gonna come over there. Like you just like wait for me. I'm gonna come over there. Yeah. So when I got accepted to Bates College, I called her and I told her that I was coming. So she picked me up at the airport. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I had another one, Gary. Yes.
How was your relationship with your dad?
That's a good question. I love that question actually. So when I was learning English, right? I was trying to achieve my dream, and my teacher was obviously curious why I was so motivated to achieve my dream. And he's also like he talks a lot about deep life lessons with us. He really get us into like our deepest feelings and all that. So he kept digging into my feeling. He wanted to know why I was so determined about it, and I didn't want to talk about it because it was, obviously I was very upset with my dad, and it was just too much for me to talk about it. But then he kept digging and digging and digging, and eventually I broke down. I was crying, and tons of foreigners that joined his class was like, you're miserable, like you're a terrible teacher, why did you make him cry? But eventually he broke that wall that I had put for so long, and I opened up and I talked to him about it. So he walked me through all this process about forgiving. He taught me that forgiving my dad is a way of me to move on with my life in a fullest potential that I can. It's not the reason that I forgive him. It's not that he deserves the forgiveness. It's that I deserve to live a better life. I deserve to move on and live my life without holding back to that grief that I have. So I forgave my dad. It took quite a long time to do that, and eventually, now I see my dad every year. We talk all the time. Yeah, so we have a really good relationship now. I'm actually like really, really grateful. Yeah.
Go ahead, Gary.
I apologize, but can I have another question to piggyback that? Because obviously we all have our own barriers.
Yep.
If I was to say, I'm giving you a chance to break our barriers and break us down to this that point, how would you do that?
I feel like I alone can't do that. I feel like, okay, for me, there's been times when I'm scared to do stuff, right? And when I only hear a solution from one person, I don't really, although I might believe in it, I don't believe in it fully until I hear it from people, like from more and more people. That's when I actually start believing that I can do it. So, like if there's anything that you can do to like break any kind of barriers that you have, I'd say YouTube. Me, every morning, I wake up, the first thing I do is not on Facebook. The first thing I do is I go on YouTube. Okay, so if you are gonna go to my YouTube channel, all you see are like all there's motivational speakers like Les Brown, Lisa Nichol, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins. I listen to all these people, and David Young, of course. I like David Young. He's a great.
The artist, the rapper.
Yeah, the rapper. But like every morning, like that's the first thing I do, because I feel like when I wake up in the morning, if I have positivity into my brain, if the first thing I hear is words of encouragement, then it makes me wanna like go out there and do stuff. But like if you wake up the first thing and you go on Facebook, you see all these like miserable things about the world, and you'll be like, I don't even want to live today, Yeah. And I don't really watch the news either, because I mean, some people see it as ignorance, but I see it differently. I feel like the news is like all they portray, all this bad stuff. And if you watch all this bad stuff enough, like enough, then you, by the time you're done with all this, there's all this news, like your dream's already killed. Say, because when I got here, right, people told me, oh, I want to go to Laos, but I heard that this and this and this and this happened in Laos, and I was like, what? I've never heard that. Like, I live in Laos for like all these years, and I've never heard that. And like for me, when I was in Europe, I travel around quite often, and I wasn't scared because I wasn't watching the news. But people were like, oh, don't go to Brussels because there was a terrorist attack. I'm like, yeah, I just went there and I'm safe. I feel like you can watch the news if you want to, but just be aware that it does have some effects, like subconsciously. So yeah.
Let me see if I hear what you're saying to kind of Gary's question. Like, it sounds like you're saying, you know, for people who have barriers, right? People who have maybe baggages or struggles, that at least one way to kind of address that is to change sort of the content, the sort of what you feed yourself intellectually, right, or emotionally, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you're always feeding yourself with, you know, the same kind of reinforcing kind of thoughts, right?
Yeah.
You know, you will always reinforce that barrier, right?
Yeah.
But because you're saying about, well, it's not just you, right? And I think you're kind of getting to that, you know, people need to kind of open their minds up to kind of more content, more things,
Yeah.
you know, and you talked about these motivational speakers. And
Yeah,
things
also,
like that.
yeah, because I feel like forgiveness, like, for example, when I was forgiving my dad, it wasn't, obviously my teacher had a big role in it, but I was also like listening to all these people on YouTube talking about forgiving. And I was like, oh, that's true. Like, I'm living my life not being super happy because I was still holding on to this past. It was in the past. I should let it go and focus on my future. Like this, like on YouTube, you can find anything that people talk about all these topics. Like any struggles that you have, like there are tons of people talking about it. They have the solution up on YouTube. Like you need to go there and look for the solutions. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, Mai.
I love that question. I've been thinking about that question so much for myself as well. Honestly, I'm still in the process of thinking about what I want to leave behind. Not so much that I want people to remember me, right? I want people to remember the idea that I have, like, because I believe that all these children can be like me, like they can come to America and study, and I want that idea to live on into the kids, and I want to have that impact of just putting that idea into them. You know, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Last question, and we gotta kind of, yes. What's your name?
Depends on what topic. I mean, I haven't read like tons of books. I have tons on my shelf though. But for like the past year, I've been reading a few books, and I'm now reading a book called The Power of Habits, and I definitely recommend that book. It's amazing. It's like I've been reading it for like 2 months, and I've been like making some big progress into installing habits into my life. Like nowadays, before bed, I would read a chapter before bed, and right after I read, I would write my journal before I go to bed. And every morning when I wake up, I would listen to motivational speeches. So that's the habit that I've been installing into my life. And first it was hard, but now it's the thing that I do. Like I don't have to think about it before bed. Like I made no excuse. I was like, I gotta do this. So that's one of the book that I would highly recommend. There's one book that I haven't read, but I'm gonna read it. But it's I've heard that it's super good. It's called Start Something That Matters. Yeah, that's a really good book. I haven't read it yet, but I have a book called You Can't Get Enough of What You Don't Want. I read the book though. It's super good. I think they do talk a lot about not being materialistic, and I find that really helpful as like for me in terms of like today because sometimes we tend to get attached to things that we have or even money and we don't want to spend it, and I feel like the book actually breaks that down for me. It's like it gives me different perspectives, and it shows me how like buying other stuff doesn't really help me as a like for my personal growth, but like books would help with my personal growth. So I feel like those books are like really good. Yeah.
Oh man, we have to end it here. Let's give Her Vang the loudest, awesome applause
Thank you.
ever. You know, Her Vang, like I said, I don't kid about this when I said, you know, he's really the model of kind of what HCON is to me. You know, Her has just an incredible view of the world. You know, I mean, Her just looks at the world, as I talked about earlier, in terms of needs and problems. He just sees problems, he sees potential solutions, and he just does something about it. He sees kids in Laos who he knows personally, he knows a solution, he sees a problem, and he does something about it. He sees a problem in his life, he sees some solutions, and he does something about it. And it's just such a simple view of the world, and his life is just this culmination of seeing problems, seeing solutions, doing something about it, and it is just so encouraging to me, and this is really what I want to communicate. I mean, he said it best, you know, with his story, and I hope you guys just really took a lot of stuff from him. So thank you so much, Her.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead, let's give one more round of applause.
Thanks.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
I'm currently designing a project for the summer, so be on the lookout for that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, basically, okay. So last summer I was teaching the kids there, right? I rent like a whole room for like kids to come and live in, and I was teaching them English and all the life lessons, and I found out that because I was like they were growing up, and I was like, I'm gonna teach them about STDs. So I was teaching it, and they were like, oh, do you know anything about period? And I was like, not really. And then they started like asking me tons of questions about it. And I had a nurse coming in, talking about it, and I learned so much about it too. And I also feel like the Hmong community back home, sometimes we don't support girls to go to school, right? We tend to think that, oh, you know, when she gets educated, she's gonna get married into like other family, she's gonna serve the family there over there. It's not good for us, so we rather send all the boys to school. So I'm designing a project where where we will like where I will actually rent a whole house and have over like 10 to 15 kids living with us. The majority are going to be girls, and we're going to design definitely we're going to teach English too, but we're also going to design other life lessons, like we're going to bring in foreigners who have a whole like spectrum of professions, and they're going to come in, they're going to talk about the life and the work, so that it gives a view of what the girls can do. And I also want to teach the girls a little bit, I don't know exactly how yet, but I want to teach them about the rights as individuals in a Hmong community, and that they can get involved. And I believe girls are really smart. So, yeah.
All right.